It has got to be exhausting to be one of these leftists that view everything in the entire world through the prism of race, right? If you don't get the job you want, you don't get into the college you want, you don't have that opportunity you want, then obviously it's someone else's fault simply because of the way that you look, right? And that's why they love the DEI over there on the left, okay? It supposedly evens the playing field, even though it's really giving opportunities to people who have no business being in a certain industry or sector in the first place. And this is exactly what we're going to see today from Sunny Hostin from The View, okay? But before we get to these clips, don't forget to like and comment on this video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
You know, my understanding of diversity, equity, and inclusion is not that, you know, there's this myth of a lack of meritocracy, that people that are diverse, that are getting these opportunities are less qualified than those people that should be in those positions. And let's be clear. They're talking about minorities. Minorities shouldn't be in these positions, and they're only getting these positions or only getting into elite colleges because of their race. But what's interesting to me about it is they're getting rid of, let's say, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the head of Brown. Mm-hmm. He's a 4-star general, but they're replacing him with a 3-star general white man. Why is he more qualified than the 4-star general? I mean, that's the easiest thing. Someone that has 4 stars is more qualified than someone that has 3 stars. And they are, I think, to be clear, getting rid of him because he's a black man. Now, the real truth about diversity, equity, and inclusion is it's not about hiring people that are less competent. It's about giving the most competent people an opportunity at it. For example, I was part of the Department of Justice Honors Program. That's how I got my first job with the Department of Justice Antitrust Division. It is a fully merit-based program. And I would not have had that opportunity but for the fact that they were looking at other pools of people. In particular, they were looking for people that were bilingual, and I happen to be bilingual. That was very helpful because I acted as a translator sometimes for the Antitrust Division. That being said, they just got rid of the honors program because they called it a diversity initiative program. You can't even apply to the program unless you've met a certain GPA standard. Right. That's purely merit. And so I think what this is about is really the myth of meritocracy. Mm-hmm.
Which is something you've talked about for years.
Yeah, there's a myth of meritocracy in this country, and it's never been a meritocracy. It's been an ethnocracy, actually. It's been about white, mediocre men that are given opportunities. It's about legacy admissions. Mm-hmm. It's you don't have to be excellent. You have to be average if you're white. If you are black, your average must be excellent in order to compete. I don't want to rely on the benevolence of a Donald Trump.
I find it pretty hilarious that every time Sunny Hostin tries to be anti-racist, she ends up sounding pretty darn racist, all right? So let's talk about her DEI complaints, right? How apparently this is giving the most qualified people an opportunity. Well, if you look at Harvard, that's not exactly what happened, right? It was the policy of the college to allow black applicants in at a much lower score compared to Asians or whites, all right? So the average score needed on the SATs was around 1,100 versus Asian Americans. They needed about 1,350 for women and 1,380 for men, all right? So does that sound giving, the best and brightest the opportunity, or does it really sound like you're making it easier for certain people to get into these institutions, okay? So that's just one thing. And next, Sunny Hostin has to go after, of course, Donald Trump for being the worst person in the world for firing General C.Q. Brown as being the Joint Chief of Staff, okay? But never mind the fact that Donald Trump was the one that got him the job in the first place, right? He recommended him for that role. So what that means is that Donald Trump knew who he was, worked with him, and in his second term says, you know what, I don't want to work with him anymore. But Sunny Hostin is 100% sure that he was fired simply because of the color of his skin. But of course, the left have always been terrific mind readers, okay? But Sunny Hostin, in her defense of the DEI, had to come out and say, well, the history of this country is about promoting mediocre white men. That sounds pretty bad, right? Could I swap the races around and say the same thing and not be accused of racism myself? Probably not, Sunny, right? So you're sounding pretty suspect to me. But of course, this isn't the first time just this week that Sunny Hostin decides to blame everything on race.
But I think what's fascinating to me is that, yes, he ran on immigration, and he ran really on the southern border, because we know we also border Canada, and that's actually the largest border. But they're not really going into Canada and looking for those Canadian people that are kind of jumping back and forth.
This is a misnomer. It's not Canadians that come across the northern border. The northern border crisis. No, it's people coming from other parts of the world, India, Mexico. But there's not a bunch of Canadians flocking. There's probably more Americans going to Canada right now.
That's not true, because I spoke to Governor Whitmer about it. But
that was a misunderstanding.
Can I just
talk at the same time?
Can I just finish what I was saying?
So that I don't 6,000 Canadians.
So that I don't lose my thought. The point is, you know, he was all about immigration from the southern border, and those immigrants or those migrants look a certain way. So it seems to me this was never really just about immigration. It was about a certain type of immigrant. And so now we have this million, these, you know,
Can I just
a Russian.
clarify though?
Can I finish talking?
Yes.
Thank you. So it's okay for Russian oligarchs to come over. It's okay for people with money to come over, but it's not okay to provide a path to citizenship for people that have been here, like the DACA recipients, for other people that look a different way.
So apparently Sunny Hostin knows that Donald Trump's border crackdown is not because of the rampant large numbers of illegal immigrants coming into this country from our southern border, right? It's a crackdown because of the way people look, because of the color of their skin, because we're not concerned about Canada and illegal immigration. Well, here's something I found rather interesting from NPR of all places, all right? The northern border communities see a dramatic increase in unauthorized migrant crossings, okay? But their dramatic increase was 7,000 a year, okay? 7,000 in these sectors, okay? Now compare that to our southern border, where you had 12 million coming across in the last 4 years. So clearly the northern border is not at the same threat level as the southern border, right? Which one's the bigger issue, Sonny? So which one should be the focus? But also Donald Trump is out there right now threatening Canada with tariffs because they're not doing enough to stop just the 7,000 illegals coming across the northern border, okay? And as is being pointed out there also, there are Mexicans actually flying up to Canada and coming down through, right? There are people from India, from Afghanistan, from all these other countries doing the same thing, right? Flying into Canada and coming down from the northern border. So it does happen, but where's the focus, Sonny? Where do you think it should be? And don't even get me started on your pathway to citizenship garbage, right? If you come into this country illegally, you should have no pathway to citizenship. If you want to be a citizen, if you want to become American, you come in and do it the right way. You pass the background checks, you pay the fees, you pass the tests, and then you embrace this country, its culture, and its ideology. But to someone like Sunny Hostin, who basically views everything through the prism of race, that has to be the reason that somebody did something that you didn't like. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me.